There you
Steven,
go.
it is, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, hey, my friend. Good to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you too. Thanks for doing this, man.
Well, my pleasure, man. Thank you. It's been quite a week. It's been a lot of fun, just talking
Well,
metal with people who love metal, In the town that
I've
I come from, there's not a lot of people around in Sarasota, Florida, I mean, I can sit and discuss like 3 decades of metal with, you know what I mean? Like just make references to bands and
yeah.
have somebody know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But not only that, you're dealing with somebody who's a legit fan of yours. So in this particular case,
Thank you.
because Atheist is one of my favorite bands. So
Thank you. Appreciate that, man.
I've got like some questions and obviously the bulk of it I want to talk about Till the Dirt, but I guess for the benefit of those who might be watching that maybe aren't too
No
up to
word.
speed, we'll do a little bit of atheist talk here at the beginning because
Whatever you want to talk
that's
about, my man. Whatever you
sweet,
want to talk
sweet.
about.
So where was so I just I came on board with atheist in '93 when Elements came out.
Wow, you
Um,
don't look that old.
no,
You look like you're 30.
I'm
How old are
45,
you?
but thank you.
Wow, killing it, buddy. Killing
Thanks.
it.
So yeah, I was a teenager and I was like swept up in the big boom of like death metal, all that stuff.
Yeah,
And Elements was like a huge album for me and my friends just because we were of that age where we were gradually building further and further on our collection of music that we loved that would later be termed extreme metal, but at the time we
yeah.
called it all death metal. But so going from like thrash to death metal and all this other stuff, we were constantly looking for those bands that were like pushing the envelope in some way or another, whether it's with extremity or with experimentation, whatever. So Elements was one of those albums we were just like, this feels like the next step here. Because because
Man,
one of my
I don't know. You were alone on that island in '93 because people were not feeling that way when we first put that album out. So it definitely took some time in the pan, so to speak, to finally get to where it was edible for everybody. And
that seems so strange to me because it was immediate. That album was one that I took to.
it's a weird one, man. I mean, it's completely different. Definitely. I mean, I wrote with a different drummer and obviously different. Tony Choi had a lot of sort of Latin influence just
Yep.
naturally. He just comes. He was just always a very percussive player and just had a great sense of groove and everything. And a lot of that is owed to him working with that drummer. We didn't have hardly any time, so I was working on guitars with Rand and Frank, and we all three played guitar on that record. And
Mhm.
there was still a lot of moving parts that were happening, and very little time to get it done, to
And
get it even written. So it's
yeah,
cool. I mean, I can't tell you how cool it is because I can't tell you how quick that happened and how magical that was because looking back on it now 30 years anniversary this year.
I
I
think the
can't
30th
believe,
anniversary is in a couple days. Actually, I think.
yeah, like to the day. Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
27th or something like that, maybe. I don't know. For some
Yeah.
reason, through my career, I've always put out records in August. For some reason, except for Jupiter. Jupiter came out in November.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was just a special time and just a really a burst, a prolific moment for it's unusual to have something sort of recorded that you haven't sort of lived with for at least a full 24 hours.
Hmm.
And the song Mineral from that album was less than 24 hours old when it was recorded.
Wow.
So that version you're hearing on the album hadn't even lived a full day. I mean, we
Yeah.
wrote that thing and put it together, and it's one of my favorite songs, and it's
Hmm.
still in our live set today. And it's funny how that works, man. Sometimes it's good to not polish turds, and just
Sure.
just write and don't think about it, man. You just create art and don't think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it works out good, because you can
Yeah.
over shit. I mean, you really can. You can really get inside your head and fuck things up for yourself, artistically.
I've done that a lot in my life, so yeah, I totally get it. But yeah, so is it true? Because I didn't know obviously at the time, but the band had already pretty much decided to call it quits when you guys were doing Elements,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
so going at it, because you are right. If you look at the first two albums, there's a progression that kind of makes sense, but it feels like there's a big jump with Elements. And so was the fact that you guys were looking at it as kind of a final album that sort of made you just go, fuck it, whatever we feel, throw it out there and let's do it.
Honestly, didn't think about it. You know, I mean, it's literally that way, man. I know it sounds like untrue, but I mean, it just there was never a moment in that 40-day period that we wrote and recorded that record that we were like, okay, it needs to be like this. I mean, I
Yeah.
knew it was going to be weird because I had never written lyrics to predetermined song titles. So that was going to be a new adventure for me. But
Yeah.
it was happening so fast that there was really zero time to process it. So we just kind of did what we liked to hear. You know what I mean? And we just kind of wrote and we managed to get this album fucking done. And we even, I even had the guys do interludes on the album to kind of create more room because we weren't sure we had written enough material. So I
Hmm.
was like, you guys should do like, you guys should each do like a little showcase in between songs, and that's how Samba Breeza came about. And
Yeah.
that was Tony's opus.
That was honestly one of the parts of the album that we would play for other people. Like it's just like, okay, these guys are like death metal and stuff, but just listen to this. And it was for some reason that kind of song on its own isn't anything we normally would listen to, but in the context of that album, it was just such a cool little moment in the album.
We wanted to, that's the one thing I can say that we kind of did want to make a statement. If we wanted to play real straight jazz, because it was a, there's complex and then there's jazz, and
Mhm.
so we had a lot of love for jazz, but we didn't think people really kind of understood just how much, how quickly we could shift gears into a song like that. And
Yeah.
and we just thought it was so fucking outside the box that was perfect, and it fit right into Tony's personality. And we had a great piano player friend of ours that was helping us with the record named David Smadbeck.
Mhm.
And we just fucking, one afternoon, just, Tony put that thing together, and then, Frank did a beautiful job on it, and it was super cool. So we were all in and around while, that day in the studio while it was happening. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those little interludes of music that, of anything on that album that gets yelled out at concerts every day, every time we play. I'm a breather, a breather. But we played it down in South America, and it was fucking awesome.
Oh, nice.
We did the piano parts on guitar, and it sounded amazing. And people were just, dancing, and it was unusual. I mean, I like
Yeah.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
we always like to mix it up a little bit.
Sure. Well, I'll get into a little more, just kind of talking about getting into your head songwriting wise when we skip a little bit forward. But for right now, so atheists call it quits.
Yeah.
17 years later, you guys come a different sort of version of the band comes back with Jupiter, which that was one of my one of the albums I was looking so much forward to, and it and not even blowing smoke up your ass. I think that is one of the best comeback albums ever. Like because there's a whole lot of bands that somewhere in the 90s broke up and then later on they get a little older and like we should do that again and they get back
Yeah.
together and they put out an album and a lot of times it's either they fail at recreating the past or they're just not as inspired songwriting wise and so it's kind of middle of the road. But Jupiter was an album where I was just like, holy crap, like it's just like almost like you guys were cryogenically frozen and then just awakened 17 years later. I'm like, all right, put out another record. And
I
it was
think for you,
just so,
thanks, man. I appreciate that. Again, that's another one that, when it came out, it's only just now sort of being appreciated, 13 years later. So, but, it's just Steve Flynn and I, man, you know, we definitely have a unique chemistry between us and the way he plays drums. And that's really the star of the show of that album is that he stopped playing drums, physically stopped playing for 14 years and came back and did that shit.
oh
And
yeah,
and that's one of
yeah.
the most impressive. He gets left out of so many conversations about best drummers. Like his name does not come up, and it's criminal how underrated Steve Flynn is, like, and how important he was to the technical metal drumming. world. You know what I mean? He really did some incredible shit on all the albums, except for obviously Elements. But
Mm.
yeah, he's just an unsung hero of that record for sure. And that was you know, once we got in a room together and we wrote Second to Sun. That was the first song that we wrote together, and we
Mm.
literally wrote it in his basement on his couch. You know, and it wasn't even in a band setting, and it was fun, and it just.
Yeah.
For us, there had been so much time in between it that it was almost like being a fan of the band and going, "Holy shit, there's a new Atheist song!" You know, like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god," you know, it sounded like Atheist. You know, I was like, "Holy fuck!" So yeah, that's how I got started, and then you know, just but you know, I tell people all this in the process of doing press for Till the Dirt that I fully understand. It's woven into my soul what atheist is and what atheist should sound like. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So don't worry about me fucking it up with with my Till the Dirt. You know what I mean? Because I can tell already by people are like, oh man, you know, I hope that I hope the new atheist isn't like that. You know what I mean? Because it's different. You know, and
Yeah.
the Till the Dirt record, and I can assure you that I know the difference between the two and how the band should sound. The next
Yeah.
Atheist record will be sick and crazy, and it'll be different than any of the other four for sure.
And
I'm
that's
playing with some guys now that are just. I can't wait to write with them. They're just they're amazing players and really great people. I think it's going to be tremendous. And you know, every band says that, but
yeah.
we'll deliver.
I
We're going to deliver.
I'm just happy that you said the words "next atheist record," so
Oh yeah,
I'm good there. But that's a really nice segue into Till the Dirt because as a fan, I was always just like, all right, it's been a while. Is Atheist going to put out anything new? And then I remember hearing about this album. I actually heard about this album through Howard H. Smith from Acid Rain, who you did a
great guy.
podcast with because we
Yeah,
do an episode of album reviews on my channel. We actually reviewed Till the Dirt like a couple weeks ago. Um,
sweet.
and so he was the first person to say, "Did you know that Kelly Shaefer's doing this?" And I was like, "No." So then it got on my
Thanks,
radar, and
Howard.
then once that first single was released, it was. So that's the thing is that my thoughts were first, is this going to take the place of Atheist? But as
You can
soon
be
as I heard
honest with
that,
me. You can be
oh
honest with
no,
me. You're not gonna hurt my feelings, man. I'd rather you be honest. You know.
no, you're not going to get that here because I fucking love this album. So you're not. So, but when I first heard the song, I was a little bit weary of like, is this going to take the place of Atheist? But when I heard that first song, I was like, this is not even the same thing. It's still extreme, and
Yeah, it's more
there's
extreme, really.
still, yeah. But the thing, it's weird how it almost feels a little bit more focused and a little bit more extreme, but at the same time still has the thing that has kept me a fan of Atheist through all the albums you guys did, and still hold them dear up until now, is the fact that songwriting wise, because I'm a songwriter, not necessarily a great one, but I've been doing it since I was a teenager.
Right
So
on.
hearing songs that surprise me or take me in unexpected places, but at the same time, I back away from it and I go, here's the song, and the song is good, as opposed to just throwing parts together and shit.
Right on.
The shit you guys have put out have always been right in the middle of that, where it's a really great, well crafted song, but there's so many parts where I go, I was not expecting this. And so the fact that Till the Dirt continues to do that, but in a way that I didn't necessarily expect, is what's really cool about it, especially with you singing now,
Yeah.
because I do there's a newer app that's called Amp, and Amp allows people to do radio shows using music from Amazon Music. So
Cool.
literally, like weekly, I do these shows where I do a little bit of talking, but I play like new stuff that I like and random stuff that I love. But I played the not outside the spiral, the
Starring role.
what, yeah, starring role.
Starring role.
I played starring role, and somebody in the comments said it's like if you really wanted Atheist and Alice in Chains together. And I was like, I hear a little bit of that, and but at the same time, not exactly. But that's one of the things that I'm really enjoying about the album is the musically speaking, it's has unexpected things, but vocally is where I was just like, I feel like, you've been doing this long enough that you could just do your voice that everybody knows and be fine with it. But you're pushing yourself to do these other things.
I've done this before. Like there's another constituency of people that have supported me over the years that supported my band Neurotica. So if you're familiar with Neurotica,
Oh, no,
so
actually,
that
I'm not. So what kind of a fan am I?
so Neurotica from 19 like the first album was produced by the singer from AC/DC, like Brian Johnson, and that was my first time singing.
Oh,
So we made a record called Seed, and then like I said, Brian produced it and put it out, and we had a song on the radio and called Easy Speak. And it was just this whole above ground world that I was not accustomed to, and that's
how
what I
did I
did
miss this? I don't know
after
how I missed this.
'93. And then we went on to sign with the WWE, and Vince McMahon started a label called SmackDown Records, and a guy named
Wow.
Benji Gordon signed us, and so then it was all over television, and so yeah, look up Neurotica and check it out. So in that
I
band,
absolutely.
I was singing, so you'll recognize my voice, back then. But I'm really it was a good band, man. Both of those albums I'm super proud of, and it was we did Ozfest in 2002.
Mhm.
The last year that when Sharon got cancer, we were out with that was an amazing. So that was a whole other fucking movie. I mean, for me
Wow.
anyway.
Yeah.
And and so at the end of that in 2002, 2003 is when I started kind of peeking around to figure out what to do next, and just in the process of trying to buy new Atheist CDs, I tripped upon the reformation of the band anyway, just because I
Okay.
realized that people didn't give a shit. But yeah, so Until the Dirt, that voice that I'm using is I was finally found a way to be able to merge the two, my two personalities, so to speak, vocally,
Uh-huh.
and I would never do that in an Atheist song, though. It's important to note that I just don't feel like it's the time or place, and so there was never an opportunity for me to do that. So
Mhm.
it's really nice to be able to be extreme and heavy as fuck, and also just drop into a really catchy, moody vibe as well.
Yeah.
But so my voice is, you know, it's not like I just discovered Alice in Chains or something. My voice has always kind
Oh
of been
yeah,
that way.
yeah.
It's old, but listen, if I'm going to be compared to anybody, that's a good comparison. I love his voice, Chris Cornell. But I mean, that's what this record is a collection of old Seattle, the best part, the heaviest, most raw part of Seattle, those old Soundgarden records, mixed with my love of like old COC, and I've always liked that kind of chugging along shit, but I also like fast stuff. And
Yeah.
so but it was interesting over the first few songs that I wrote to hear the contrast between, if there's a blast beat, something's, flying underneath, and just you set this vocal, this nice harmony over the top of that chaos. It, that's what alarmed me. At first I was like, whoa, this is different.
Mhm.
And it kind of that's how it felt. I had a little studio at home and tracked most of this record myself. And, and so I would just write these songs each night. I wrote like 25 songs for this album or for this band. It wasn't going to be a band. It was just this moment of being locked down during COVID that I just got really. I had a cool studio set up and everything sounded really good, and so I could just play all the guitars, play bass, program the drums, and then do the vocals. So it was pretty liberating.
Okay. And so
That's how
and
it
so
came.
the whole yeah, so the sound of the album is really just like you were saying with Elements, it was pretty much just unplanned because you didn't really expect it to be
Yeah.
anything significant.
No.
So the songs just came together. That's the thing that fascinates me with you is the songs that you end up writing. It's just like because I could ask you, what are your influences? I'm pretty sure you could name me 10 different things that are completely unrelated. But
Yeah. Absolutely.
but but just the idea of whenever you're sitting down to write a song, when things come to you, is there a specific thing that sparks a certain kind of song with you, or can you even wrap your head around that?
It's just really a headspace that I enjoy being in because I like to just to smoke out, have a drink or two,
Mm-hmm.
and sit in my that's my world. I mean, I've loved it since I was 14 years old. You know what I mean? And so it's just it's the place I want to be emotionally and everything. And I just nothing more fun to me than sitting down and writing songs. And I love the ability to have all this young talent around me because I can see what they're capable of. And so it's almost like being
Yeah.
a painter with all these brand new colors. And I can't wait to paint, I can use these colors, and it's really fun, dude. And I mean, I've always just, I mean, I write every single, probably at least five days a week. I'm writing on a computer, and that's been that way for the last few years. So I've got a lot of atheist material put together and stuff like that. But that's a different process with putting together an atheist album than it was for this Till the Dirt thing is. But yeah, there's literally each night I would write a song, and a lot of the recording of this album was those early takes. I didn't, Scott Burns was big on that as well. He was like, let's keep the authenticity of that, that evening. So I mean, I've told the story a couple times. It's always hard doing a lot of press because you feel like you're telling the same story like over and over again. But I'm trying to get the condensed version of it. But just sitting down at 7 o'clock, my wife would go to work, and it was COVID lockdown, and she was working at a grocery store to as a frontline employee, and so I had all this time on my hands between 7 and 3 in the morning, and so I was just like, that was I just got into that headspace. There was nothing else to do, and but be home, and I definitely didn't want to go out into the public, and I was like, I watched a number of friends sort of die from respiratory issues during COVID. So I've been a long time smoker and shit. So I was like, I need to stay away from that. I cannot get that. So anyway, that's how it came to be. And then after the first few songs, and I sent it around to some friends, I was just kind of alarmed at how different and weird it was. It was dissident, and it just sounded so different than Atheist. I could tell right away. So then I just got excited about it as I was turning my friends onto it, and they were like encouraging me, and I was like, let's just keep it going. So I just kept writing and writing for 6 to 8 weeks or so. I had 25 songs, and so Scott really helped me pick the best ones and get the best performances. But all those late night, feeling good performances, like all those vocals are things that I would normally never do in a sober mind, so to speak. But I think a lot of people did that during COVID. A lot of people started drinking and and smoking, and it changed, it changed the world. And I encapsulated that period with this album. And so it's angry, and it's pissy, and I love it, man. It's just, I feel like it's just, music is magic. It just kind of happens. And if you're capable of grabbing it out of the air and recording it, it's the best feeling in the world, man. So I'm kind of a junkie to that, to that feeling of sitting in a studio, man. It's so fun just creating on the spot. You have no idea what you mean when you sit down, what's going to come off your fingers, but just make sure you're recording. And when you do, it's like, oh, fuck, there it is. Cause I can't remember, I forgot so much shit when I was younger, that I wrote a bunch of cool shit, and I can't remember it. You know what I mean? So I wish I had a studio back then, that I have now. Like, recording capabilities now are unbelievable. You can make these really listenable demos. And to me, that was just amazing. I didn't have to consult with 4 other minds. And as I've said before, it's not that I love the band vibe. I love that, but sometimes it can be difficult sometimes it's, I guess, just more fun to not have to ask everybody's opinion and get everybody's okay on a riff. You know what I mean? You're writing this riff, and in your mind, you can see where it's going. And one guy's like, fuck that, man. I don't, and all of a sudden, all right, you got to be diplomatic, and everybody's, and you know what I mean? And you kind of concede some things. I didn't have to do any of that with this at all. I just had to come to terms with myself and the songs, and it was cool. But I mean, Scott Burns really was so helpful, because each night I would send him the song that I did, and he would keep me in focus, and tell me, oh no, that's not a song, that doesn't sound like the other songs that you wrote. It's not of the same quality, And so that was encouraging and fun, though. I mean, it's kind of sport in a way. Do you write a lot as well?
Not really anymore. I do what you were bringing up about overthinking yourself, because I played in bands for about 25 years or so, a lot of failed bands, a lot of me having to be in charge of shit, and it got overwhelming because it was always with other people who didn't really want to do it. So I quit and started doing this sort of YouTube thing, because I'm a big music fan in general, but I still occasionally write music. I have a whole like 8-song mini album, musically completely recorded, but I can't write any lyrics. And every time I write something, I'll give it a couple days, and I'll go back and look, and I go, this is not good enough. but all of the music wasn't written that way. The music just came out of me and was recorded. But for some reason, lyrically, that's the brick wall that I'm running
Well,
into.
I have an idea for you. It's something that I also did during COVID. I had some other songs that weren't quite atheist and they weren't quite what I was feeling like was Till the Dirt. And on a couple of them, I had done the vocals only because of the vocals that I did on the songs that I didn't feel like I was going to use them. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend named Jacob Sin who sang for Contrarian. We did a tour a couple of years ago with Suffocation, and he was the vocalist for Contrarian, and my friend, and a really good young talent, got a killer voice. And so I was like, hey man, he was losing his mind because he didn't have a band to and he's just a lyricist and a vocalist,
Mm-hmm.
and he can't write his own music. So I was like, man, I have a bunch of songs, and I sent him 2 songs, and he fucking wrote vocals over them, and he wrote vocals that I would have never written. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, holy shit. And so out of it, like it was like it was a fun experiment, and just send it to a really competent vocalist and be like, react, and see what the reaction is to
Yeah.
your music, from a vocalist, both lyrics and singing the melodies. You'll be blown away, man. There's so many talented people. So anyway, he did 2 songs. You can find him on YouTube. Jacob Sin. I did all the music, and then he just laid his vocals, and he did a great job. And it was fun
Nice.
because it wasn't a band. That's the great thing about that's the different thing about today compared to back in the days. You don't have to be in the same room anymore to make music together.
Yeah.
You just send files through the mail, and this whole record was made that way. Nobody ever laid eyes on each other this entire record. So that's kind of a cool thing I've never been a part of before. Every other record I've done is always rehearse it out and write the songs, rehearse it, and then go in the studio. These are just kind of happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Each night, a different kind of happening would happen. That's what these songs are. I did all the vocals with a handheld 58. Like, just I did everything you're not supposed to do. Recording just to make it. Just to keep it. Raw and there was a period where we could have maybe said, all right, let's go in the studio and a big fancy studio and do it like that. But I pulled in some friends and I was like, yo, can you do a solo on this song? Everybody was just so kind. And I asked DiGiorgio, I was just like, pick any song, man. I just want to be on a record with you, man.
Yeah.
We know each other for a long time, and he was like, oh yeah. So just the easiness of it was beautiful, and you couldn't do that shit in the late '80s and '90s.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the urgency of it all is kind of helped it become what it was, because a lot of my questions were like, well, how did it come together with these particular people? But it sounds like it was all just like the excitement of it all, and then other people jumping on board, and it was almost like you didn't really have to think it out. It was just things just
Well,
started
so
happening.
I did all the demos. I have a set of demos where it's just me playing, and then
Yeah.
I slowly brought in Yoav, started doing all the bass tracks, and then I have
Mhm.
another friend named Kyle Sokol who plays with Nocturnus now, and he played bass on one of the songs, and so
Mhm.
I was just kind of like each night I would get a text from a friend, and I was like, oh, he's a musician. I wonder if would you want to throw some bass down on this, and I just got lucky with some cool people. I mean, Loomis it took maybe, I don't know, 36 hours. And he was like, yeah, here you go. Poof, pow. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it, buddy. And it was a shredding, perfect solo for that song, Privilege. And yeah, I'm a lucky guy, man. It's good to be old sometimes. You got some cool
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and one of those is a big talking point with this album too, because being a fan of the death metal scene in the early '90s, a very big name is Scott Burns. And in fact, I've said many times on a lot of my episodes of my shows here and there that back in the day, you didn't know what the band was, but if you turned it over and it said Scott Burns, you went and took it to the counter and you bought it.
Yeah, that's
Because
100% correct. I mean, he's so responsible for an era. I mean, and he's Scott's he's the most humble. He's humble to a fault. So
yeah,
it drives me crazy because I'll be on the phone with him telling him how great he is. But he's just like, no way, it's the bands. It's the bands. And by the way, he has a book that's about to come out.
oh
um
shit, awesome, that's great.
yeah, it's written by a guy named David Gelke, and he works for Decibel, so it's going to be a Decibel magazine thing. It's going to be cool. Anyway, yeah, Scott's amazing, and his brutal honesty is something that's so refreshing to me as well. It's something that it's really hard to get in this industry. It's hard to get people like when you were talking about older guys when they get older and they, oh, let's come back and make a record, and it ends up not being, they can't recapture that magic. And on Jupiter, I think there's a lot of things that we did, that so that I think that's an important thing, because you can't have a bunch of people around you telling you how great, you know what I mean? Like you got to have some real people that'll say, no, dude, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's super lame. Like that's not, you might think that's cool, old guy, but it's not cool, and
Mm.
you have to, you have to have some real honesty. So I was seeking that honesty with Till the Dirt. I was like sending it to people that I knew didn't like Atheist, and so like my friend Gunnar Sauerman is a guy who worked a season of Mist and was our publicist for Jupiter, and he's a black metal guy. Like I love him; he's amazing. But
Mm.
he told me right out of the gate, he's like, "Yeah, I'm not a fan, but I'll be setting up all the press for Jupiter," and I love that. I thought it was amazing, and so we've been friends ever since. And he was also very instrumental in the early part of writing these Till the Dirt songs. I was sending him because he was in Europe, so when I got done, it was like early morning over there. I think he was in Germany at the time, or Sweden, and I knew that, if he liked it, then I was on the right track. Because to me, it had like this weird black metal vibe, on the first two songs, just the weird dissonance of it, the
Yeah.
outside the spot, minus the chorus, obviously. But I mean, that was the exciting part, is that chorus was so different for that kind of vibe,
Yeah.
and so that was the first song that I wrote for the whole process, when I kind of, and then Bring On the Gods was the second song. And then it just went from there to a bunch of directions. It's fun.
Nice. Yeah, and so the process of the recording, and with Scott, you essentially would record things, piece by piece, and then you would send the files to him, and then he kind of
Yeah,
did his
no,
own
I
thing
would,
to
I
them.
would, I would, I would mix an MP3, of whatever I did, and it would have drums and bass and everything. And I would do all the guitars on it, and send him the songs. And so then once we decided we were going to work together and produce this record, we didn't know whether we were going to have any label interest, and it was, it was a tough time for labels right then because of COVID. There was a lot of backed up labels, and things were going out of business. It was not the time to be trying to sell a record. And,
Yeah.
and so once we decided, okay, this is going to be a band instead of, because I didn't know, maybe it was in the beginning, I was like, should I do a solo record? And, and they were like, fuck that, don't do solo record. Nobody likes solo records. So I was like, all right, make a new band, and that's really the way it happened. And then, yeah, so I there was really just no it all just sort of came out of thin air,
Yeah.
and I'm super grateful to the people that helped me make it happen. But those demos, once we decided to do that, that's when we brought in Daniel Martinez, Chris Martin. Yoav did the rest of the bass on the album, did an amazing job. All the solos are done by Chris Martin and Daniel Martinez, and who were in Atheist at the time.
Mhm.
And so in the live band. And so yeah, it was just really, really incredible. So then once they played essentially what I had on the demos, minus the solos,
Mhm.
and then John Longstreth just did it. I mean, that song "Insistent Demand" on the album is like it's a really weird song, and I just, he's the king of speed and all that. I really wanted to hear him do something like what's a guy like that going to do on a song like this? And he was kind enough to to lay it out, and his performance is amazing. And
Yeah.
it's just a weird hybrid that I don't, for better or for worse, it's a very original album, and that particular song especially is sort of very, very unique. So
Yeah.
I look forward to people hearing it.
Absolutely. Obviously at this point it's out on Nuclear Blast, and I'm still waiting for my vinyl. It's supposed to get here Monday.
Came
But
out nice. They did a really good job.
nice.
Looks like
Oh yeah, yeah. So since you're saying this is a band, is there plans for a Till the Dirt tour or anything like
yeah.
that?
I mean, it's a band. We're floating around, hoping that people will respond to the record. I mean, that's what it really comes down to.
Okay.
Um, I got a lot of stuff to do with Atheist next year. So the three of the guys that are in Atheist, the new Atheist band, Dylan Marks, Ian Way, is well, so Ian Way is in Till the Dirt with me. In Atheist, Dylan Marks, Alex Haddad. Um, so I'm like Jerry Witonsky, and Yoav. So those guys, three of those guys are going to play with me in the live band for Till the Dirt. And they're just young, amazing musicians and great people, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I guess what I'm getting at is I wouldn't do it in the same day, but I think that we could do an Atheist show and then the next day do a Till the Dirt show. So I'm hoping some opportunity comes up like that because it's essentially the same band. Might just have to bring one extra person. So
Yeah.
I think that would happen. So yeah, I mean the sky's the limit. We'll see. I'm just having
Sweet.
fun making music and I hope people like the record.
Yeah. Well, I guess that for this last question, it brings us kind of full circle back to Atheist real quick, because there's these reissues coming out also through Nuclear Blast of all the Atheist
Yeah,
albums, which
yeah, they're out.
they look great.
Man, they came out really nice. Like the splatter vinyl, I
Yeah.
highly recommend it. They look beautiful, and the inside is different colors as well. So for collectors, anybody that collects them, it's a different. The Nuclear Blast did a really good job. We changed up some things, and I just love that. It's not just. It's really cool splatter vinyl, and I've opened them up myself, and I love signing them for people because it's like I get to look at the vinyl, and I've always like been fascinated with vinyl. I like to look
Yeah.
at the groove and think,
I mean,
I wrote
clear,
I wrote this song, and these grooves are my grooves.
I was gonna say clearly I'm fascinated with it too. That's all. It's all vinyl
Yeah,
back there. But yeah. So yeah. So you did say so you've got Atheist stuff in the can, but is that so? It seems
yeah,
like
not
everything's
really. Got a lot of. I personally have a lot of stuff, but I mean, with Atheists, that's one where we really all got to kind of get in the room and write because there's just so many things going on. It will take too long to do it through the mail. You
yeah
know what I mean? Like,
yeah
so,
yeah
and plus Atheist is worth, it's put in 30 years. It's worth the old grand process, not this, oh, by the way
yeah
process. So,
absolutely
so yeah, so we hope to get, yeah, but we are going to compile a bunch of stuff together. That's the advantage of modern technology is that I'll have a big folder full of MP3s and I can just be like, I can just flip right through these things. And those guys are so talented and they play so well. It'll be easy to put things together and they're going to have ideas in response to my ideas and
yeah
being in the room. I mean, it'll come together really quickly. And I can't wait to hear it. I have no idea what it's going to sound like, but I just know it's going to be crazy. You know what I mean? And I won't let it be anything else. I mean, personally, I'll be fighting for the weird shit.
yeah. Well, for coming from a fan, it's the fact that this Till the Dirt album is to me so fucking good. It really
Thank
makes me excited for whatever the future holds. So, because like I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about bands, still making music, and I was like, yeah, when you hear this Till the Dirt album, you're gonna see that Kelly Shaefer has so much fuel left in the tank.
Thanks,
There's
brother.
I mean, it's just one of those things where there's certain people that I'm just like, I'm so glad that you still seem so happy with the process of making this music, and your mindset still seems to be coming from this place of I don't even know where to put it. Your brain just works the way that it works, and you're not trying to do any particular thing, but it comes out like music that you would make, oddly enough.
Thanks. Well, thanks, man. Till the Dirt is actually that's what Till the Dirt means to me. Like I will always be playing music until I just can't. Until I'm in the dirt.
Yeah,
uh, so I just it's like a mantra to me. And plus I just love it, man. I mean,
yeah,
there's some people like to play pickleball. You know what I mean? I fucking like to write music.
yeah,
My play,
absolutely.
and I hope that I don't know what I'll do with it all. I'm hoping that someday I have a 6-year-old son, so I'm hoping that one day he'll dig into all these because I'll never be able to use all this music. And he'll dig into it and like write a record like 25 years from now after I'm gone. So I'll go on
That
record
would be
saying I can't
sweet.
wait. Go buy that record. Same
Yeah,
store.
everybody go.
No.
And well, yeah, watching this 25 years from now, go out and buy that record.
Yes.
Um, cool. Well, yeah, that's this has been absolutely great. Getting to talk with you, and like I
Thank
said,
you
I
for having
love.
me.
Yeah, I love this album, and I'm just gonna be waiting to see what happens next. But for right now,
Thanks, man.
I'm gonna be
Yeah,
flying the
I can't wait.
flag.
I have a whole, it's exciting because I know what the others like. I have a whole almost, well, I have more than a record. I'm going to write some more stuff, but right behind this one, I mean, it's in the same vein. So I really do hope people like the record because I'd love to see the band go on to make, 2 or 3 records and make a dent. And I just want to, want to be a part of something new and different. And
Yeah,
that's all I'm ever trying to do. If I'm writing and I hear and it's like, man, that's I'm not moving the boulder at all. You know what I mean? I'm leaning on it. So I always want to write stuff that I feel like is moving the boulder down so that, it evolves and has it keeps it interesting. You know what I mean? And there are
yeah,
no rules in music, as I always say. No rules. So you can do
absolutely.
whatever the hell you want musically, and I love that. So thanks for having me,
Absolutely.
man.
Yeah, that's a great way to end it. Thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a good
Go
night,
get that
and
record.
yeah, go get
Cheers.
Till the Dirt later.
Bye, Howard, if he's watching.
Later.